Death is often whispered about in hushed, fearful tones, yet in the vast, compassionate wisdom of the ancient teachings, it is viewed not as a cold ending, but as a subtle, transformative threshold. There is a specific, powerful energy that arises in those final moments, a flickering flame of consciousness known as the near-death karma, which acts like a final signature on the canvas of a lifetime. It is a moment of immense clarity, where the weight of our habits, our loves, and our secret kindnesses all converge into a single, pointed direction. We often spend our years planning for vacations, for careers, or for the growth of our families, yet we rarely pause to cultivate the inner garden that will support us when the physical world begins to fade. Think of this transition as a traveler reaching a great crossroads at dusk, where the only lantern they carry is the light of their own past actions and the current state of their heart. There was once a gentle soul in the time of the Buddha, a man named Dhammika, who had spent his entire existence weaving threads of generosity and peace into the fabric of his community. He did not seek fame, nor did he perform rituals for the sake of being seen, but rather, he lived with a heart that was naturally open, like a flower that provides fragrance to anyone who passes by. As his body grew weary and the time of departure approached, his mind did not drift into the dark waters of regret or panic. Instead, he felt a strange, beautiful resonance, as if the very air around him was vibrating with the joy of the thousands of small, selfless acts he had performed. His children and friends gathered around him, weeping softly, but Dhammika remained anchored in a serene joy, because his near-death karma was a reflection of a life well lived. He saw visions of celestial chariots, not as frightening phantoms, but as welcoming symbols of the merit he had gathered, proving that the mind creates its own reality in those closing seconds. You see, our consciousness is like a vast ocean, and every thought or action is a pebble dropped into its depths, creating ripples that eventually determine the tides. When we reach the end of the shore, it is the strongest ripple, the most persistent habit, or the most recent intention that guides the flow of our next journey. It is quite fascinating, really, how a single, focused thought at the end can outweigh years of wandering, not because the past is erased, but because the mind is so incredibly potent when it is stripped of worldly distractions. We might wonder if it is possible to change the course of a ship just as it enters the harbor, and the answer is a resounding yes, provided the rudder is held with a steady, peaceful hand. This is why the atmosphere surrounding a person in their final hours is so sacred, as it helps to steady that rudder and keep the heart pointed toward the light. Every day, we are practicing for this moment without even realizing it, because the way we react to a sudden rainstorm, a harsh word from a stranger, or a moment of unexpected beauty, is exactly how we will react when the great transition arrives. If we spend our days clutching tightly to our grievances, storing them away like bitter seeds, those seeds will likely sprout when the mind is at its most vulnerable. However, if we practice the art of letting go, of forgiving ourselves and others with a soft smile, we are building a reservoir of peace that will be our greatest companion. It is not about being perfect, because none of us are, but about the direction in which we are leaning. If a tree leans toward the east, it will surely fall toward the east when it is finally cut, and so it is with the human spirit and the inclinations we nurture throughout our waking hours. There is a lovely story about a person who lived a very simple life, often overlooked by the world, but who possessed a hidden treasure of immense patience. One day, while walking through a crowded market, they were accidentally pushed into the mud by a hurried merchant who did not even stop to apologize. Instead of rising in anger or seeking retribution, this person simply looked at the mud on their clothes, smiled at the absurdity of the moment, and felt a genuine wish for the merchant to find peace in their busy life. That tiny, almost invisible moment of grace was a building block for their near-death karma, a testament to a heart that refused to be ruffled by external chaos. When we think of our future, we often think of places and things, but the true future is the quality of our awareness, which transcends the physical form and carries the essence of our character forward. In the ancient texts, there is a deep emphasis on the clarity of the mind at the time of passing, because the last thought is like the final note of a long, complex symphony. If that note is harmonious, it brings a sense of completion and beauty to the entire piece, regardless of the dissonances that may have occurred earlier. We can find great comfort in this, knowing that it is never too late to cultivate a moment of pure, loving kindness. Even a person who has struggled through many shadows can, in a moment of sincere realization and release, transform the trajectory of their soul. It is like a room that has been dark for 100 years, yet the moment a candle is lit, the darkness vanishes instantly, as if it had never been there at all. Everyone we meet is carrying a silent burden, a fear of the unknown that often manifests as anxiety or a restless pursuit of security. But what if we looked at the transition of death as a homecoming, a return to a state of being that is no longer confined by the limitations of a physical body? To do this, we must learn to be comfortable with the silence within ourselves, to sit with our breath and realize that we are more than our names, our jobs, or our possessions. When the mind becomes still, like a lake after the wind has died down, we can see the reflection of the moon clearly on the surface. That reflection is our true nature, and recognizing it now ensures that we will recognize it when the veil is lifted. I remember hearing about a seeker who traveled far and wide to find the secret of a happy rebirth, only to be told by a wise elder that the secret was sitting right there in their own chest. The elder explained that the mind is a master painter, and every intention is a brushstroke on the canvas of the universe. If we paint with colors of hatred or greed, the landscape we inhabit will be jagged and dark, but if we paint with compassion and honesty, we will find ourselves in a garden of infinite peace. This is the essence of near-death karma, the final masterpiece created by the accumulation of our life's artistic choices. It is a very encouraging thought, is it not, that we hold the brush in our own hands every single second of the day. Sometimes, we might feel overwhelmed by the mistakes we have made, fearing that they will haunt us in those final moments and pull us toward a difficult path. But the teachings offer a beautiful remedy, which is the power of merit and the ability to shift our focus toward the goodness we have witnessed or participated in. If we can remember even one act of true sincerity, one moment where we felt a deep connection to the suffering of another and offered a hand, that memory can become a lighthouse. It can pierce through the fog of confusion and lead us safely to a shore of tranquility. The mind is incredibly flexible, and its ability to pivot toward the light is its most miraculous quality. Consider the birds that fly across the sky, leaving no tracks, yet they know exactly where they are going because they follow an internal compass. Our internal compass is our intention, the underlying why behind everything we do. If our why is rooted in a desire to be helpful, to be kind, and to be awake, then our transition will be as natural as a bird gliding on the thermal currents of the air. There is no need for struggle when we have aligned ourselves with the natural laws of the universe, which always favor balance and harmony. We are part of a grand, beautiful mystery, and our departure from this life is simply a change of clothes, a shedding of an old garment to step into something new and vibrant. There is a story of a royal minister who was very powerful and wealthy, but he lived in constant fear of losing his status and his life. He sought the advice of a wandering monk, asking how he could ensure a favorable future when he knew his time was short. The monk did not tell him to give away all his gold or to perform elaborate ceremonies, but instead told him to practice the recollection of the good every night before sleep. He told the minister to look back on his day and find one moment where he had been truly fair, one moment where he had checked his ego, and to let his mind rest in that goodness. By doing this, the minister trained his mind to find the path of light, so that when the final night came, he did not see his gold or his enemies, but only the radiance of his own developing virtue. We often talk about the weight of karma as if it were a heavy stone we must carry, but it is more like the fragrance of a garden that we have tended. If we have planted jasmine and roses, the air around us will be sweet, and that sweetness will draw us toward more beauty. If we have allowed weeds of anger and jealousy to take over, the scent will be different, but we must remember that we are always the gardener. Even at the very last moment, we can pull out a weed and plant a seed of peace. This is the profound mercy of the law of cause and effect. It is never a closed door, but always an invitation to turn toward a higher state of consciousness. When we look at the people around us, we see a tapestry of different lives, each moving toward their own unique conclusion. Some move with grace, while others struggle, but all of us are united by the same fundamental reality of change. If we can look at each other with eyes of compassion, realizing that we are all travelers on the same path, we begin to dissolve the barriers of the self. This dissolution is a wonderful preparation for the end, because the more we let go of the I and the mine, the less there is for death to take away. We become like the wind, free and unburdened, moving through the world without being caught by its thorns. I find it quite moving to think about how much power we have over our own destiny, simply by choosing our thoughts carefully in this very moment. It is like building a sturdy house, brick by brick, so that when the storm comes, we can sit inside, safe and warm, watching the rain through the window. Each brick is a moment of patience, a word of encouragement to a friend, or a silent wish for the happiness of all beings. When the house is complete, it doesn't matter when the storm arrives, because we are already prepared. The near-death karma is simply the roof that we put on the house, the final piece that confirms the integrity of the entire structure. In one of the old stories, a group of travelers was caught in a thick fog, and they began to argue and blame each other for being lost. But one traveler sat down, closed their eyes, and listened to the sound of a distant stream, knowing that the water would lead them to a village. By staying calm and focused, this traveler was able to guide the others out of the fog. Our lives are often filled with the fog of mundane concerns, but if we can listen to the stream of our own inner wisdom, we will not be lost when the physical senses begin to fail. That stream is always flowing, always clear, and always leading us toward the vast ocean of liberation. It is important to remember that we are not alone in this process, as the universe itself is a manifestation of an incredible, loving intelligence that supports our growth. When we align our small will with this greater harmony, we find that things happen with a sense of effortless grace. The transition of death is no exception, it is a part of the natural rhythm, like the falling of a leaf in autumn to nourish the roots of the tree for a new spring. If we can accept this rhythm with a heart of gratitude, we will find that there is nothing to fear, only a vast, open space waiting to be explored. Think of the way a mother holds her child, with a love that asks for nothing in return, and how that love creates a sense of absolute safety for the little one. We can cultivate that same quality of love toward our own minds, treating our fears and our hopes with the same gentle care. When we are kind to ourselves, we create a peaceful internal environment that becomes the foundation for our final moments. A mind that is at home with itself is a mind that can travel anywhere without losing its way. There was once a king who was very proud of his conquests, but as he lay on his deathbed, he realized that none of his soldiers or his land could follow him into the unknown. He called for a wise sage and asked, "What is the one thing that will go with me?" The sage replied, "Only the footprints of your heart." The king finally understood that while his body and his kingdom were temporary, the love he had shared and the wisdom he had gained were eternal. In those final hours, the king turned his mind away from his losses and toward a profound wish for his people to live in peace. That shift in focus, that last act of selfless concern, became his near-death karma, a luminous bridge to a bright future. It is quite a relief to know that the essence of who we are is not defined by our physical strength or our external achievements. Even when the body is weak, the spirit can be incredibly strong, shining with a light that is independent of the flickering candle of life. This inner light is what we are truly cultivating when we speak of spiritual practice. It is a light that does not go out when the sun sets, but rather becomes more visible in the darkness. By turning our attention inward, we discover a source of strength that is immovable and timeless. I often think about the sky, which remains vast and clear no matter how many clouds pass through it. Our awareness is like that sky, and our thoughts, emotions, and even our karma are like the clouds. Sometimes the clouds are heavy and dark, and other times they are light and wispy, but they never truly touch the sky itself. When we realize this, we can watch the clouds of our life come and go with a sense of equanimity. At the moment of death, the clouds part completely, and for a brief, glorious instant, the sky is revealed in all its infinite beauty. If we have practiced looking at the sky throughout our lives, we will not be startled when the clouds vanish. The beauty of the teachings is that they offer us a practical way to prepare for the inevitable, not by dwelling on gloom, but by embracing the fullness of the present. Every breath we take is a small cycle of birth and death, a constant reminder of the impermanent nature of existence. If we can breathe in with gratitude and breathe out with release, we are practicing the very essence of a peaceful transition. It is a rhythmic dance, a steady pulse that connects us to the heart of the universe. There is a quiet joy in understanding that every kindness we show to another is actually a gift to ourselves, a seed planted in the fertile soil of our own consciousness. When we help a neighbor, when we listen with full attention to a child, or when we offer a silent prayer for someone in pain, we are brightening our own future path. This is not a transaction, but a natural law, as inescapable as the sunrise. The more we give, the more we find that our inner reservoir is filled with a light that never fades. I invite you to consider that the moments we spend in quiet reflection, away from the noise of the world, are some of the most important moments of our lives. In that stillness, we are connecting with the part of us that does not change, the part that is ready for any journey. It is like a sailor who spends time in the calm harbor, checking their ropes and their sails, so that they are ready when it is time to head out to the open sea. The open sea of the afterlife is not a place of terror, but a vast expanse of potential, and we are the captains of our own souls. One of the most heartening stories involves a person who spent their life as a simple gardener, finding God in the roots and the petals of every plant. When it was their time to go, they didn't need any complex rituals or grand words. They simply felt as though they were stepping from one garden into another, more beautiful one, because they had lived in a state of constant communion with the beauty of creation. Their near-death karma was as sweet as the scent of blooming jasmine, a natural continuation of a life spent in harmony with nature. We too can find our own garden, whatever it may be, and cultivate it with love and presence. It is often the smallest things that have the greatest impact on our consciousness, like a single drop of water that eventually fills a large vessel. We don't need to do heroic deeds to create positive karma, we only need to have a heroic heart, a heart that is brave enough to stay soft in a world that can sometimes be hard. Every time we choose understanding over judgment, we are adding a drop of pure water to our vessel. By the time we reach the end of our journey, the vessel will be full to the brim, a refreshing source of life for whatever comes next. I hope you feel a sense of lightness as we talk about these things, because the truth of our existence is actually very beautiful and full of hope. We are not victims of fate, but creators of our own experience, and even the most difficult moments are opportunities for profound growth. The transition we call death is just one more opportunity to practice the grace and the wisdom we have been gathering all along. It is a moment of great significance, yes, but it is also a moment of great liberation, a chance to step into a wider, more radiant reality. As we sit here together, let us take a moment to just be, to feel the quiet pulse of life within us, and to recognize the incredible potential that lies in every single thought we choose to hold. We are like stars in the night sky, each shining with our own unique light, yet all part of the same celestial dance. The more we shine with kindness and clarity, the more beautiful the entire sky becomes. And when it is time for one star to fade from view, its light continues to travel across the universe, touching everything in its path. There is a story about a master who was asked by a student how to die well, and the master simply replied, "Live well." To live well is to live with an awareness of the interconnectedness of all things, to see yourself in the eyes of a stranger, and to treat every moment as a precious gift. When we live this way, the transition of death becomes a seamless part of the flow, a natural exhale after a long and beautiful inhale. There is no break in the continuity of the spirit, only a shift in the form it takes. In the final moments, the mind often returns to the things it values most, like a homing pigeon returning to its nest. If we value the things of the spirit, such as compassion, wisdom, and peace, then that is where our mind will go. If we value the things of the world, such as wealth and power, our mind may struggle to let them go. Therefore, the practice is to slowly shift our values, to realize that the only things we truly own are the qualities of our own heart. These are the only treasures that can survive the fire of transformation. I find it quite lovely that we can support each other in this process, by being a source of peace for those around us. When we are calm and loving, we create a field of energy that helps others to be calm and loving as well. This is especially important for those who are facing their own transitions, as our presence can be like a steady hand on their shoulder, reminding them that they are safe. We are all mirrors for each other, reflecting the light or the shadow that we choose to carry. Let us decide to carry the light, to be the ones who bring a sense of warmth and clarity to every room we enter. Not because we have to, but because it feels so much better to live in a state of love. This love is the ultimate protection, the ultimate guide, and the ultimate destination. It is the beginning and the end of every journey, and the bridge that carries us across every river. When the time comes to step through the final doorway, may we do so with a smile on our lips and a heart that is wide open, ready for the wonders that lie ahead. May we look back on our life not with regret, but with the quiet satisfaction of a traveler who has walked a long road and finally reached a high point with a spectacular view. The view from that height is beyond words, a vista of infinite light and eternal peace, where every soul is recognized as a part of the divine whole. I see so much beauty in the way we are all trying our best, navigating the complexities of human life with so much courage and heart. It is not easy to be human, to feel the highs and the lows, the joys and the sorrows, but it is through these very experiences that we forge our spiritual strength. Each challenge is a master teacher, showing us where we are still holding on and where we are ready to let go. When we embrace life fully, we are also embracing death, for they are two sides of the same golden coin. There is a profound silence that exists beneath all the noise of our daily lives, a silence that is full of wisdom and peace. This silence is always there, waiting for us to return to it. It is the same silence that we will encounter at the moment of our transition, and if we are already familiar with it, it will feel like a long-lost friend. Let us take the time to visit that silence every day, to listen to its wordless teachings, and to let it soak into our very bones. It is the greatest preparation we can ever have. The stories of the past are like lanterns along a path, showing us that many have gone before us and found a way to a bright and peaceful future. We are following in their footsteps, and we have the same potential to realize the ultimate truth of our being. Every step we take in the direction of goodness is a step toward that realization. We are moving toward a light that is already within us, a light that can never be diminished or destroyed. I find myself thinking about the way a river flows into the sea, losing its individual name and shape, but becoming part of something much more vast and powerful. It doesn't lose its essence, it only expands its boundaries. Our transition is much like that, an expansion of consciousness, a merging with the infinite ocean of peace. There is no need to fear the ocean, for it is our true home, the place where all rivers eventually find their rest. As we continue this conversation, let the words wash over you like a gentle rain, nourishing the seeds of wisdom that are already in your heart. You are a being of immense value and light, and your journey is a sacred one. Every moment is a new beginning, a fresh opportunity to create the kind of karma that will lead you to a future of beauty and joy. Trust in yourself, trust in the process, and trust in the infinite compassion that surrounds us all. We can look at the world with a sense of wonder, seeing the magic in the ordinary, and the sacred in the mundane. When we live with wonder, our minds are naturally open and receptive, which is the perfect state for any transition. There is so much to be grateful for, so many small miracles that happen every day if we only have the eyes to see them. Let gratitude be your constant companion, the music that plays in the background of your life. I am reminded of a story about a master who, on his deathbed, was asked by his disciples for a final teaching. He simply pointed to a flower in a vase and whispered, "Look how beautiful it is." In that one simple act, he was showing them that the present moment, in all its simplicity and beauty, is the only thing that truly matters. If we can stay present with the beauty of life, we will naturally be present with the beauty of death. There is no separation between the two, only a continuous flow of existence. We are all interconnected in ways that we can barely imagine, like the threads of a vast and intricate web. When one thread vibrates, the whole web feels it. Our thoughts and actions have a far-reaching impact, not only on our own future, but on the future of the whole world. By cultivating peace within ourselves, we are contributing to the peace of the world. This is our greatest responsibility and our greatest privilege. In the quiet moments of the night, when the world is still, we can feel the truth of these words in our hearts. We are part of something eternal, something that was never born and will never die. Our journey through this life is just a brief episode in a much larger story, a story of awakening and return. Let us walk this path with joy and confidence, knowing that we are always held in the arms of an infinite love. The near-death karma is not something to be feared as a judgment, but to be welcomed as a final gift of our own making. It is the essence of our life's wisdom, distilled into a single moment of profound clarity. It is the light that will guide us home, the song that will carry us across the threshold. Let us make that light as bright as possible, and that song as beautiful as we can. Every act of forgiveness, every moment of patience, every gesture of kindness is a preparation for that final signature. We are writing our own story, and we have the power to make it a masterpiece of love and grace. Let us live in a way that when the final page is turned, we can look back with a heart that is full and a spirit that is at peace. The journey is long, but every step is precious, and every moment is an opportunity to touch the divine. I hope these thoughts bring you a sense of comfort and inspiration, as they do for me. We are all in this together, supporting each other with our presence and our love. Let us continue to walk this path with our heads held high and our hearts wide open, embracing the mystery of life and the beauty of every transition. There is so much more to discover, so much more to love, and so much more to be. As the sun continues its journey across the sky, let us also continue our journey toward the light. There is no hurry, no need to rush, for the destination is already within us. We are just uncovering what has always been there, the radiant soul that is our true identity. Each day is a gift, a chance to polish the mirror of our mind so that it can reflect the truth more clearly. And when the mirror is perfectly clear, there is no difference between the reflection and the reality. Imagine a bird perched on a branch, singing its heart out even though it knows the branch might break. It sings because it has wings, and it knows it can fly. We too can sing our own song, regardless of the uncertainties of life, because we have the wings of our spirit, which can carry us above any storm. Our wings are made of the wisdom we have gathered and the love we have shared. With these wings, we can soar into the infinite sky, free from all fear and limitation. Let us be like the lotus flower, which grows in the mud but remains unstained by it. The world may have its challenges and its darkness, but we can remain pure and beautiful if we keep our hearts turned toward the sun. The mud is actually necessary for the lotus to grow, just as our challenges are necessary for our spiritual development. Without the mud, there would be no flower. So let us embrace the mud of our lives, knowing that it is the very thing that will help us to bloom. In the end, it all comes down to the quality of our presence, the way we show up for ourselves and for others. If we can show up with love, with clarity, and with a sense of humor, we will find that life is a much more enjoyable experience. And when the time comes to leave, we will do so with the same sense of joy and ease. The transition is not an end, but a new beginning, a doorway to a new and exciting adventure. I am so glad we could have this time together, to talk about these important things in such a relaxed and heart-to-heart way. It is through these kinds of conversations that we can truly connect and support each other on our spiritual journeys. You are never alone, for the wisdom of the ages and the love of countless beings are always with you. Trust in your own inner light, and let it guide you every step of the way. As we move forward, let us carry the essence of this conversation with us, letting it inform our thoughts and our actions throughout the day. Let us be a little kinder, a little more patient, and a little more awake. By doing so, we are creating a beautiful near-death karma, a luminous path that will lead us to a future of infinite peace and joy. The journey is beautiful, and so are you. Think about the way a single candle can light 1,000 other candles without losing any of its own light. Our spirit is like that candle, and our influence on the world is the flame that we pass on. When we live with a heart of service and compassion, we are lighting candles everywhere we go. And in that collective glow, the darkness of fear and death completely disappears. We are part of a massive movement of light, and our contribution is essential and precious. There is a peace that surpasses all understanding, a peace that is available to us right here and now. It is not something we have to wait for, but something we can experience in every breath. Let that peace be your foundation, the ground on which you stand as you face the world. When you are rooted in peace, nothing can shake you, not even the great transition of death. You are like a mountain, solid and immovable, yet reaching toward the heavens. I wish for you a life that is full of meaning, a life that is a true reflection of the beauty that is in your heart. May you find the courage to follow your own path, and the wisdom to know that you are always exactly where you need to be. Every experience is a lesson, every encounter is a blessing, and every moment is a step toward your ultimate home. Trust in the journey, and trust in the love that is the fabric of the universe. Continuing this gentle flow of thought, let us consider the way a master musician prepares for a grand performance, not by worrying about the final note, but by immersing themselves completely in every single vibration that comes before it. Our life is that performance, and the state of our mind in those final moments is the natural culmination of every small, quiet choice we make while we are still vibrant and strong. We often mistakenly believe that the near-death karma is a sudden, random event, like a bolt of lightning from a clear sky, but it is actually more like the steady accumulation of snow on a mountain peak, where eventually, one more tiny flake determines the direction of the entire slide. When we understand this, every mundane interaction, every silent thought of patience toward a difficult colleague, or every moment we choose to look at the world with wonder instead of cynicism, becomes a vital part of our preparation. It is a beautiful relief to realize that we do not need to perform miracles to secure a peaceful transition, we simply need to be present and sincere in the small things, for the small things are the very threads that weave the tapestry of our final consciousness. There is an old story of a humble weaver who lived in a small village during the days when the Buddha walked the earth, and this weaver was known for the incredible softness of his fabrics, yet no one knew his secret. When asked how he achieved such quality, he simply said that with every pass of the shuttle, he whispered a wish for the person who would wear the cloth to be free from suffering and filled with peace. He did not do this for extra money or praise, but because he saw his work as a direct extension of his heart. As his years advanced and his hands grew stiff, he did not feel a sense of loss or fear, because his mind was already inhabited by the very peace he had wished for others. In his final hours, he did not see the walls of his simple hut or the shadows of the evening, but rather felt himself wrapped in the same soft, luminous energy he had woven into his cloth for decades. This is the profound magic of a life dedicated to subtle kindness. It creates an environment of the soul that is naturally buoyant and bright, making the transition feel like stepping from one warm room into another. Everyone possesses an internal compass that is constantly being calibrated by our intentions, and in the moments before we depart, this compass points with unerring accuracy toward the habits we have most deeply ingrained. It is much like a path through a dense forest, where the more we walk a certain way, the clearer and easier that path becomes to follow, even in the twilight. If we have walked the path of irritation and complaint, that is the path our mind will instinctively take when it is confused and weak. But if we have spent our days clearing the path of gratitude and acceptance, even a mind clouded by physical illness will find its way to the clearing where the light is strongest. We are the architects of our own internal geography, and the landscape we find ourselves in at the end is the one we have been mapping out with every breath we take today. There was once a young student who asked a wise teacher why some people seem to face the end with a radiant smile while others are gripped by a cold terror. The teacher led the student to a riverbank and pointed to two pieces of wood floating on the surface. One was a heavy, waterlogged branch that struggled against every ripple, and the other was a light, dry leaf that danced effortlessly on the waves. The teacher explained that the heavy branch represents a mind weighed down by the attachments to possessions, titles, and old grudges, while the light leaf represents a mind that has learned the art of letting go. When the river of life reaches the great waterfall of death, the leaf simply floats into the mist with grace, whereas the branch is battered by the rocks because it tries to hold on to the shore that is no longer there. Our practice, then, is to become as light as that leaf, to enjoy the beauty of the world without trying to own it or keep it from changing. It is quite fascinating to think about how our consciousness functions like a mirror, reflecting whatever we choose to place before it. If we fill our lives with the noise of constant competition and the pursuit of things that do not last, our mirror becomes dusty and distorted, making it difficult to see clearly when the light begins to dim. However, when we choose to focus on the eternal qualities of the Spirit, such as compassion and wisdom, the mirror becomes polished and bright. In the final moments of life, this polished mirror reflects the inherent purity of our true nature, providing a sense of comfort that no worldly treasure could ever offer. We have the power to polish this mirror every single day, simply by being mindful of what we allow to occupy our thoughts and where we choose to direct our precious attention. I find so much encouragement in the idea that the universe does not judge us based on a checklist of rules, but responds to the genuine frequency of our heart. A person who has lived a complex life but who, in a moment of deep, sincere realization, turns toward the light with their whole being, can experience a transformation that is truly miraculous. It is like the story of a traveler who had been walking in the wrong direction for many miles, yet the moment they realize their mistake and turn around, they are already on the right path. The distance they traveled in the wrong direction no longer matters, because their current orientation is what determines where they will end up. This is the essence of the near-death karma. It is about the final orientation of the heart, the ultimate pivot toward the truth of our existence. We can look at our challenges not as obstacles, but as the very whetstones that sharpen the clarity of our awareness. When we encounter a difficult person or a painful situation, it is an opportunity to see where we are still clenching our fists and where we can learn to open our palms. A heart that has been softened by the fires of experience is a heart that is ready for the great expansion, for it has already learned that there is nothing to fear in the dissolution of the ego. The small eye that we protect so fiercely is actually a very tiny box, and death is simply the opening of that box so we can finally see the vast sky that has always been there. There is a quiet strength that comes from understanding the law of cause and effect, not as a system of punishment, but as a system of profound responsibility and freedom. We are not pawns in a game being played by distant forces, but the masters of our own destiny, weaving the reality of our future with the shuttle of our present intentions. When we act with kindness, we are not just helping another, we are literally brightening the atmosphere of our own future passing. It is a very practical and logical way of living, where every good deed is a deposit into a spiritual bank account that we will surely draw upon when the physical world can no longer provide for us. I remember a story about a merchant who was very successful in business but felt a deep, nagging emptiness in his soul as he grew older. He began to spend time in the forest, listening to the wind and observing the cycles of the seasons, and he noticed that the trees did not struggle to hold on to their leaves when autumn arrived. They simply let them fall, trusting that the energy within them would remain and eventually bring forth new life. This realization profoundly changed the merchant, and he began to approach his business and his family with a sense of gentle detachment, no longer needing to control every outcome. When his own autumn finally came, he was as peaceful as a forest at dusk, his mind resting in the quiet assurance that he was part of a much larger, indestructible cycle of life. You might notice that as we talk, the weight of the topic seems to lift, replaced by a sense of curiosity and even a bit of lightness. This is because the truth is never heavy, it is only our resistance to the truth that creates the feeling of burden. When we accept that change is the only constant, and that our current form is just one chapter in an infinite story, we can breathe more deeply and live more fully. The transition we are discussing is just a change of scenery, a shift in the way we perceive ourselves and the universe. If we are comfortable with ourselves now, we will be comfortable with ourselves then, for the essence of our being does not change with the shifting tides of the world. There is a beautiful practice where we can visualize our heart as a radiant sun, shining light in all directions without any preference for who receives it. This sun does not ask if the person is worthy or if they will say thank you, it simply shines because that is its nature. When we cultivate this kind of unconditional love, our near-death karma becomes as bright and warm as a summer morning. A mind that is habituated to giving light will naturally gravitate toward the light, for like attracts like in the subtle realms of consciousness. We are not just preparing for an end, we are training for an awakening into a state of existence that is defined by the very light we choose to embody now. The stories of the past are not just ancient myths, but living maps that show us how to navigate the terrain of our own inner world. They remind us that the qualities we admire in the great sages are the very qualities that lie dormant within us, waiting to be awakened. Every time we choose to be patient instead of angry, or generous instead of greedy, we are waking up a little bit more. And the more awake we are, the more seamless and joyful our final transition will be. It is like waking up from a dream into a reality that is far more beautiful and vivid than anything the dream could ever contain. Consider the way a river never tries to turn back toward its source, but always moves forward, trusting the path that has been laid out for it. It flows through valleys, crashes over rocks, and meanders through meadows, yet its ultimate destination is always the sea. Our life is that river, and our experiences are the different landscapes we pass through. If we can trust the flow, and not try to cling to the banks or turn back to the past, we will find that the ocean is waiting for us with open arms. The near-death karma is simply the point where the river meets the sea, the moment when the individual drop realizes it has always been part of the vast, infinite ocean. I find it quite moving to think about the quiet dignity of a soul that has found peace within itself, a peace that is not dependent on health, or wealth, or the approval of others. This kind of peace is like a deep well that never runs dry, providing nourishment even in the driest of times. When a person with such a well reaches the end of their journey, they are not thirsty, for they carry their own source of life within them. This internal resource is the greatest inheritance we can leave for ourselves, a treasure that cannot be stolen and will never fade. One of the most important things we can do for ourselves is to learn to forgive, not just others, but especially ourselves. We often carry the weight of our past mistakes like a heavy cloak, forgetting that every moment is a fresh start. If we can look at our younger selves with the same compassion we would show to a lost child, the heavy cloak falls away, and we find ourselves standing in the light. A mind that is free from the poison of self-reproach is a mind that can face the great transition with a sense of lightness and freedom. The final signature of our life should not be written in the ink of regret, but in the clear water of self-acceptance and grace. In the old days, there was a belief that the last thought we have is the seed for the next garden we will inhabit. While this is a profound responsibility, it is also an incredible opportunity. It means that no matter what has happened before, we have the power in each moment to plant a seed of beauty. We can choose to think of something we love, someone we have helped, or simply the feeling of peace that comes from a deep, quiet breath. These tiny, luminous seeds are what create the landscapes of our future, and we are the ones who get to choose which seeds to plant. Imagine a bird that has been kept in a cage for its whole life, and then one day the door is opened. At first, the bird might be afraid to leave the familiar space, but eventually, it feels the call of the sky and spreads its wings. Our physical body is like that cage, and death is the opening of the door. If we have spent our lives looking at the sky and dreaming of flight, we will soar into the expansive freedom of the afterlife with a sense of immense joy. Our spiritual practice is the training of our wings, making them strong and steady so that when the door opens, we are ready for the ultimate flight. Every day, we have countless opportunities to practice for this moment of release. When we finish a meal, when we complete a project, or even when we say goodbye to a friend at the end of the day, we are experiencing a small version of the great transition. If we can do these things with a sense of presence and a heart that is at peace, we are building the muscles of the soul that will serve us when the time comes for the final release. It is all part of the same beautiful training, the same steady movement toward a state of being that is unburdened and free. I often think about the way a garden responds to the care of the gardener, blooming with vibrant colors and sweet scents when it is tended with love. Our mind is no different, it requires the same gentle attention and the same commitment to removing the weeds that would choke out the flowers of our virtue. When we tend our inner garden, we are not just doing it for our own enjoyment, but for the benefit of everyone who encounters us. A peaceful person is a blessing to the world, a living testament to the possibility of a life lived in harmony with the truth. There is a deep, abiding joy that comes from knowing that we are part of an eternal flow, a cycle of life and death that is as natural as the seasons. When we stop fighting the flow and begin to move with it, our anxiety disappears and is replaced by a sense of wonder and awe. We are participants in a grand cosmic drama, and each of us has a vital role to play. The transition we call death is not the end of the play, but simply a change of costume and a move to a new stage. As we sit here and share these thoughts, I hope you can feel the quiet strength that comes from this understanding. You are a being of infinite potential, and your journey is a sacred one. Every step you take, no matter how small, is a contribution to the beautiful masterpiece that is your life. Trust in yourself, and trust in the wisdom that is already within you, for you have everything you need to navigate the transition with grace and peace. Let us be like the mountains, which stand tall and unmoved by the storms that pass around them. The storms of life are temporary, but the mountain remains, grounded in its own strength and connected to the earth. Our spirit is that mountain, and our practice is to remain centered in our own truth, regardless of what is happening in the world around us. When we are grounded in this way, the transition of death is just another storm passing by, leaving us untouched and serene. I am so grateful for this time we have to explore these deep and meaningful topics together. It is a reminder that we are all connected, and that our shared journey is one of learning to love and to be at peace. May these words find a home in your heart, and may they provide a source of comfort and inspiration whenever you need it. You are a radiant being of light, and your future is as bright as the most beautiful sunrise you can imagine. Think of the stars that continue to shine even during the day, though we cannot see them because of the brightness of the sun. Our true nature is like those stars, always present, always shining, even when it is hidden by the activities of our daily lives. In the quiet moments before we depart, the sun of our physical existence begins to set, and the stars of our spiritual awareness become visible once more. If we have cultivated an awareness of these stars throughout our lives, the darkness of death will not be dark at all, but a sky full of infinite, guiding lights. There is a profound sense of freedom that comes from knowing that the most important thing we can ever do is simply to be kind. Kindness is the ultimate spiritual currency, the one thing that truly matters when all else is stripped away. It is the language that the soul speaks, and it is the bridge that connects us to every other living being. When we live with kindness, our near-death karma is a symphony of love, a beautiful melody that carries us into the unknown with ease. Let us continue to walk this path with a sense of joy and discovery, knowing that every moment is a gift and every breath is a miracle. We are not just surviving, we are thriving in the light of our own developing wisdom. And as we grow, we find that the things we once feared no longer have any power over us, for we have found a source of strength that is beyond the reach of time and change. I find it quite lovely to think about the way our lives are intertwined, like the roots of the trees in a forest. We support each other in ways we don't even realize, and our individual peace contributes to the collective peace of all. When we focus on our own inner transformation, we are also transforming the world, one heart at a time. It is a beautiful and noble way to live, and it is the best preparation for the journey that lies ahead. In the final analysis, it is the quality of our love that determines the quality of our departure. Love is the ultimate gravity that pulls us toward the light, the force that transcends all barriers and heals all wounds. If we can fill our lives with love, our transition will be a natural and beautiful expansion into a state of existence where love is the only reality. There is no more beautiful way to leave this world than with a heart that is overflowing with love for all of creation. There is a subtle, almost invisible architecture to our days, where the walls are built of our recurring reactions and the windows are opened by our sudden moments of clarity. When we think about the final transition, it is helpful to look at it not as a mountain we must climb, but as a vast, gentle mirror that simply shows us the shape of our own character. In the ancient stories, There is a concept of the sign of the destination, a mental image or feeling that arises as the physical senses begin to withdraw their focus from the external world. For some, it might be the scent of rain on dry earth; for others, it could be a radiant light or the face of a loved one who embodied pure goodness. This sign is not a judgment imposed from the outside, but a natural projection of our most dominant mental state, a vivid dream that the mind creates to guide itself through the unfamiliar terrain of the threshold. If we have spent our lives looking for the good in others, our final sign will naturally be one of beauty and welcome, whereas a mind that is focused on conflict may find the transition more turbulent. Think of a traveler who has lived in many different lands, learning the languages and customs of each place they visited, so that they never truly felt like a stranger anywhere. Our spiritual practices, our meditations, and our daily efforts to be patient are exactly like learning those languages of the soul. When the time comes to leave the familiar country of the physical body, we discover that we already know the language of the next realm, because the language of peace, light, and love is universal. It transcends the limitations of speech and form, acting as a familiar melody that hums in the background of our consciousness. This familiarity is what allows a person to step into the unknown with a sense of curiosity rather than dread, much like a child who is excited to see what lies beyond the next hill. There was once a wise woman who lived on the edge of a vast forest, and she was known for her ability to remain calm even during the most terrifying thunderstorms. When people asked her how she managed to stay so serene, she explained that she had spent her life observing the trees, noticing how they survived the wind not by resisting it, but by being flexible. She realized that the branches that broke were always the ones that were the most rigid, while the ones that swayed and bent with the gale remained intact. She applied this lesson to her own mind, learning to bend with the sorrows and joys of life without letting them snap her spirit. As she reached the end of her days, the great wind of death began to blow, but she did not fear it, because she had become as flexible as the willow. Her near-death karma was a state of effortless yielding, a soft surrender that allowed her to be carried by the wind rather than being broken by it. Our intentions are like the silent currents deep beneath the surface of the ocean, which move entire ecosystems even when the surface appears still. We may go through the motions of our daily routines, but the why behind our actions is what truly shapes the energy of our departure. If we perform an act of charity with a hidden desire for praise, the current is slightly murky, but if we offer a simple smile just to brighten someone's moment, the current is crystal clear. These clear currents are what sustain us when the tide of life begins to go out, ensuring that we are not left stranded on the rocks of our own vanity. It is a very comforting realization that the simplest, most honest intentions are often the most powerful ones, carrying more weight than grand gestures that lack a sincere heart. Consider the way a master artist approaches a canvas, knowing that every single dot of color contributes to the final impact of the painting, even if those dots seem insignificant at the time. Our life is a collective masterpiece, and the near-death karma is the final glaze that brings all the colors into a harmonious whole. If we have lived with a sense of purpose and a commitment to harmlessness, the final image will be one of profound integrity. We don't have to be famous or wealthy to create a beautiful life, we only need to be consistent in our kindness. This consistency creates a momentum of goodness that acts like a gentle hand, guiding us toward a rebirth that reflects the beauty of our inner world. I often reflect on how much of our fear stems from the idea that we are losing something when we pass away, as if we were a cup being emptied of its water. But what if we are not the cup, but the water itself, and death is simply the breaking of the glass so that the water can merge with the infinite stream. When we identify with the water, we realize that we can never truly be lost, for our essence is fluid and eternal. This shift in perspective changes everything, turning a moment of perceived loss into a moment of ultimate gain. We are returning to the source, to the vast reservoir of consciousness from which we first emerged, and that return is the most natural thing in the world. There is a story of a young man who was terrified of the dark, until a sage told him that the darkness is just the absence of light, and that he carried a lamp within his own chest that no wind could extinguish. The sage told him that to light the lamp, he only had to think of a time when he felt truly safe and loved. The young man practiced this every night, and soon he found that the darkness no longer held any power over him. We are all like that young man, and our inner lamp is our awareness of our own inherent goodness. As the light of the physical world begins to fade, this internal lamp becomes brighter and clearer, illuminating the path ahead with a steady, golden glow. When we look at the world around us, we see that nature is constantly teaching us about the beauty of transitions. The sun does not struggle to set, nor does the moon apologize for its waning, they simply move through their cycles with a quiet, majestic grace. We are part of that same nature, and our own cycles are equally sacred and beautiful. If we can align ourselves with this natural rhythm, we find that the transition of death is not an interruption of life, but a beautiful continuation of it. It is like the pause between a breath out and a breath in, a moment of absolute stillness that contains the potential for everything that is to come. I find a great deal of joy in the thought that our love for others is a bridge that remains standing even when the physical world falls away. The connections we form, the compassion we share, and the forgiveness we offer are all threads that weave a safety net for our consciousness. When we are kind to someone, we are not just helping them in the moment, we are building a foundation of peace for ourselves. This is not a selfish act, but a recognition of our fundamental interconnectedness. What we do for another, we truly do for ourselves, and the near-death karma is the ultimate evidence of this profound truth. Imagine for a moment that your mind is like a vast, clear sky, and your thoughts are like birds flying across it. Some birds are colorful and sing beautiful songs, while others are dark and silent, but none of them can ever leave a permanent mark on the sky itself. At the end of our journey, the birds all fly away, and we are left with the infinite, radiant blue. If we have spent our lives identifying with the sky rather than the birds, we will find that there is nothing to fear in the departure of the thoughts and the body. We are the vastness, the clarity, and the peace that remains when all the movement has ceased. There was a group of monks who used to practice a very interesting exercise. Every time they walked through a doorway, they would pause for a second and remind themselves that they were entering a new space and leaving an old one behind. This simple practice trained their minds to be comfortable with change and to stay present in the transition. By the time they reached the end of their lives, the final doorway was just another step in a long series of mindful transitions. They were not startled or afraid, because they had practiced the art of moving between worlds every single day. We can do the same, by being mindful of the small endings and beginnings that happen throughout our waking hours. The quality of our energy is like a fragrance that follows us wherever we go, and it is this fragrance that determines the descent of our next existence. If we have cultivated a fragrance of generosity and peace, we will find ourselves in a world that reflects those qualities. This is why it is so important to be mindful of the aroma of our thoughts. If we notice a scent of bitterness or envy, we can gently replace it with a scent of appreciation and joy. We are the perfumers of our own souls, and the blend we create today is what we will carry with us into the tomorrow of the afterlife. Every interaction we have is a chance to practice that near-death grace, which is the ability to be fully present and kind, as if it were the very last thing we would ever do. When we listen to a friend with our whole heart, or when we look at a flower with total attention, we are practicing the quality of consciousness that is required for a peaceful transition. A mind that is fragmented and distracted will find it hard to focus when the time comes, but a mind that is unified and present will move with the precision and grace of a falling star. It is a beautiful way to live, treating every moment as a precious, final gift. I remember hearing about a person who, upon realizing their time was short, decided to write a letter to everyone they had ever known, thanking them for the role they played in their life, no matter how small. Even for those who had caused them pain, they wrote words of forgiveness and well wishes. By the time they finished, their heart was so light that they felt as though they could float away. This act of completion is a powerful way to prepare for the end, as it leaves no loose threads or heavy burdens. It is a final housekeeping of the soul, ensuring that everything is in its proper place before the journey begins. There is a deep peace in realizing that the universe is not a chaotic place, but a symphony governed by laws of harmony and balance. Our actions and intentions are the notes we contribute to this symphony, and the near-death karma is the final chord of our movement. If we have played in tune with the laws of kindness and truth, our final chord will be resonant and beautiful, blending perfectly into the larger melody of the cosmos. We are all musicians in this grand orchestra, and our only task is to listen closely to the rhythm of our own heart and play with sincerity. Think of the way a sunset is not a tragedy for the sun, but a magnificent display of color and light as it prepares to shine on another part of the world. Our departure is much the same, a glorious transition that is full of promise and beauty. We may be leaving the sight of those who love us, but we are entering a new dawn somewhere else. This perspective allows us to face the end with a sense of wonder and excitement, knowing that the light never truly goes out, it only changes its location. We are eternal beings, and our journey is an endless exploration of the infinite wonders of existence. It is often the most difficult moments of our lives that provide the greatest opportunities for spiritual growth, like the way a piece of coal is transformed into a diamond under intense pressure. If we can look at our struggles as the very process of our own refinement, we can find a sense of peace even in the midst of pain. This refined consciousness is what we carry with us, a diamond-like clarity that can cut through any confusion or fear. Every time we choose to stay steady and kind in the face of adversity, we are polishing our own diamond, making it more brilliant for the final unveiling. I find it very helpful to think of the mind as a garden that needs daily tending, not just to pull out the weeds, but to appreciate the flowers that are already blooming. Sometimes we are so focused on what is wrong that we forget to notice what is right. Gratitude is the most powerful fertilizer for the soul, and a heart that is full of gratitude is a heart that is naturally prepared for any transition. When we focus on the blessings we have received, we create a positive momentum that carries us through even the darkest of times. The near-death karma of a grateful person is like a garden in full bloom, a place of peace and beauty that welcomes the soul with open arms. As we continue to walk this path together, let us remember that we are never alone, for the wisdom and love of the entire universe are supporting us at every step. We are part of a vast, interconnected web of life, and our individual journey is a vital part of the whole. Trust in the process, trust in yourself, and trust in the infinite compassion that surrounds us all. Every moment is a new beginning, a fresh opportunity to create the kind of energy that will lead us to a future of light and joy. Let us be like the stars that shine in the night sky, providing a sense of direction and comfort to all who look up at them. Our lives can be a source of light for others, showing them that it is possible to live with peace and grace even in a world that is full of challenges. When we shine our light, we are not just helping others, we are also brightening our own path. The light we give is the light we receive, and in the end, there is only the one light, shining eternally in all directions. I am so grateful for this time we have shared, and I hope these words bring a sense of comfort and inspiration to your heart. We are all travelers on the same sacred journey, and every step we take is a blessing. May you find the peace that lies within you, and may it guide you through all the transitions of your life with grace and ease. You are a radiant being of light, and your journey is a beautiful and eternal one. Sometimes, when the world grows quiet and we are left with nothing but the rhythmic rise and fall of our own breath, we begin to realize that our life is not a collection of objects we have acquired, but a series of echoes we have sent out into the universe. These echoes are the subtle vibrations of our character, the invisible imprints of our patience, and the warmth we have left behind in the hearts of others. In the profound silence of the final threshold, it is these echoes that return to us, forming a chorus that defines the atmosphere of our next beginning. We might think of this as a spiritual resonance, where the frequency we have maintained throughout our years becomes the very ground upon which we step into the beyond. If we have cultivated a frequency of gentleness, the transition feels like a soft melody, a harmonious blending of the known and the unknown that reassures the spirit that it is exactly where it belongs. There is a captivating story from the ancient chronicles about a simple woodcutter who lived in a valley near a great monastery, and though he never learned to read the sacred scripts, he spent every day practicing a single, quiet virtue, the art of listening without judgment. Whether it was the sound of the wind in the pines, the chatter of a neighbor, or the heavy silence of his own fatigue, he met everything with an open, receptive heart. As he reached the twilight of his life, his physical strength began to dissolve like mist in the morning sun, yet his mind became incredibly spacious, like a vast cathedral of peace. Because he had never built walls of resentment or towers of pride, there was nothing to crumble when the end came, and he found that his consciousness was already merged with the infinite space he had always respected. His near-death karma was not a struggle against the end, but a joyful recognition that the listener and the sound had finally become one. It is quite moving to observe how a single, sincere thought of regret can be transformed into a powerful force for good, provided we do not let it turn into the poison of self-hatred. In the moments before the final departure, the mind often sifts through the past like a person looking for gold in a riverbed, and sometimes we find stones that are heavy with the memory of our mistakes. However, if we can look at those stones with the eyes of a compassionate friend, acknowledging the error while choosing to release the weight, the mind becomes remarkably buoyant. This process of intentional release is like cutting the sandbags from a hot air balloon, allowing the spirit to rise above the clouds of confusion and into the clear, bright sky of understanding. We are not defined by our worst moments, but by our willingness to turn toward the light even when the shadows are long. Think of the way a forest prepares for the winter, not by hoarding its green leaves, but by drawing its essence back into its roots and trusting that the earth will hold it safe until the spring. Our inner life has a similar essence, a core of awareness that remains untouched by the changing seasons of the body. When we learn to identify with this root system of the soul, we no longer fear the falling of the leaves or the cooling of the air. We understand that the essence is eternal, and the external form is just a temporary expression of a much deeper, more persistent life force. By focusing on the roots of our virtue, our kindness, and our stillness, we are preparing a winter home for our consciousness that is warm, secure, and full of hidden potential. There was a group of travelers who found themselves caught in a thick, swirling fog, and while most of them became agitated and began to run in circles, one traveler sat down and began to hum a soft, steady tune. When the others asked how they could be so calm when they were lost, the traveler explained that they were not focusing on the fog, but on the steady rhythm of their own heart, which gave them a sense of direction that no map could provide. In the final moments of life, the fog of physical sensation can often be overwhelming, but if we have practiced finding the rhythm of our own inner peace, we will not be lost. We will have a beacon within us that remains steady regardless of the external conditions, a light that guides us through the mist and toward the shore of a new reality. Everyone we encounter is a mirror reflecting a different facet of our own potential, and every time we treat another with genuine respect, we are actually healing a part of ourselves. This healing is a vital component of a peaceful departure, as it ensures that our heart is not fragmented by the memory of old conflicts. When we approach the end with a heart that is whole, the transition is smooth and effortless, like a drop of oil spreading across the surface of calm water. We are not just making life better for those around us, we are meticulously assembling a ship that is strong enough to cross the great ocean of the afterlife without any leaks of fear or doubt. I often wonder about the way a single candle can light 1,000 others without losing its own flame, and how this perfectly describes the nature of our influence on the world. When we live with a heart of service, we are starting a chain reaction of light that continues long after our physical presence has faded. This collective glow is what remains, a legacy of warmth that acts as a protective shield for our spirit as it moves through the final doorway. The more light we have shared, the brighter the path ahead becomes, for we are literally walking through the radiance we have helped to create. It is a beautiful and reassuring thought that the goodness we give away is the very thing that comes back to lead us home. Consider the intricate beauty of a spider's web, catching the morning dew and shimmering like a necklace of diamonds, yet the spider itself remains centered and still, waiting for whatever the wind brings. Our life is a web of relationships and experiences, and our practice is to remain centered in that same stillness, regardless of what is caught in the strands. If we react with panic to every fly or every gust of wind, we will eventually tear the web and lose our peace. But if we remain as the silent observer at the center, we will find that the web is not a trap, but a magnificent creation that connects us to the entire garden. This centered awareness is the ultimate protection in the moments of transition, allowing us to watch the dissolution of the physical world with the same quiet interest as a gardener watching the falling of the rain. There is a quiet, profound joy in the realization that we do not need to be perfect to have a beautiful rebirth, we only need to be heading in the right direction. It is like the way a compass needle might quiver and shake, but as long as it eventually settles on the north, the traveler will find their way. Our north is the quality of our intention, the deep-seated desire to be a source of peace and clarity in the world. Even if we have wandered off the path many times, each moment is an opportunity to reorient ourselves, to find the north again and continue our journey with renewed confidence. The final signature of our life is written in the ink of our most persistent aspirations, and if those aspirations are rooted in love, the story will always have a radiant conclusion. I find so much comfort in the simple act of being present with the people I love, listening to their stories and sharing their laughter, for these are the moments that truly matter. We often chase after grand achievements, forgetting that the most profound spiritual work happens in the quiet corners of our daily lives. A gentle word to a stranger, a moment of patience with a child, or a silent wish for the happiness of someone we find difficult, these are the true building blocks of our near-death karma. They are the small, golden threads that weave together to form a safety net of merit that will catch us when we fall from the physical world. Imagine for a moment that your mind is like a clear, mountain lake, and your thoughts are like the pebbles thrown into its depths. If the water is turbulent and muddy, you can never see the bottom, but if the water is still, every detail is visible. At the end of our life, the wind stops blowing and the water becomes perfectly still, allowing us to see the entire landscape of our character with startling clarity. If we have spent our years keeping the water clean through honesty and kindness, the view will be one of immense beauty and peace. We are the guardians of our own internal lake, and the clarity we maintain now is the clarity we will experience when the final ripples fade away. There was a story of a royal gardener who spent his entire life tending to the palace flowers, and though he never spoke to the king, he felt a deep sense of connection to the beauty he was creating. When he grew old and could no longer work, he sat in his small cottage and simply visualized the blooming roses and the scent of the jasmine he had nurtured. In his final hours, he did not feel alone or forgotten, for his mind was a blooming garden of his own making. He stepped out of his body with the same grace and lightness as a butterfly leaving its cocoon, moving toward a reality that was even more vibrant than the gardens he had tended. His life was a testament to the fact that we are always surrounded by the beauty we have chosen to focus on. Every breath we take is a bridge between the inner and the outer worlds, a constant reminder of the flow of energy that sustains all of life. If we can learn to breathe with awareness, we are practicing the most fundamental form of letting go, for every exhale is a small death and every inhale is a small birth. This rhythmic cycle prepares us for the grand transition, making it feel not like a violent rupture, but like a natural extension of a process we have been performing since the moment we were born. When the time comes for the final exhale, we will do so with the confidence of someone who has practiced this release a million times, knowing that the next inhale is waiting for us in a different form. I see so much beauty in the way we all strive to be better, despite our flaws and our fears, for this striving is the very essence of the spiritual path. We are like seeds buried in the dark earth, pushing upward toward a light we can only imagine, yet that light is what calls us and guides our growth. Each challenge we face is like the weight of the soil, providing the resistance we need to become strong and resilient. When we finally break through the surface, we realize that the struggle was not an obstacle, but the very catalyst for our blossoming. Our final transition is the moment when we fully emerge into the sunlight, leaving the darkness behind and revealing the true beauty of what we have become. It is quite fascinating to think about the power of a single moment of genuine compassion, and how it can ripple out across time and space to touch lives we will never even know. When we act from a place of love, we are contributing to a global reservoir of goodness that supports all of humanity. This reservoir is also our own personal sanctuary, a place of refuge that we can return to whenever the world feels overwhelming. In the moments before we depart, we can dive into this reservoir of our own merit, feeling the cool, refreshing water of our past kindnesses wash away any lingering traces of fear. There is a deep peace in knowing that the universe is always in a state of balance, and that our own life is a part of that grand, unfolding equilibrium. When we align our small will with the greater harmony of the cosmos, we find that things happen with a sense of effortless grace. Our departure is no exception. It is a perfectly timed movement in the cosmic dance, a transition that is as necessary and as beautiful as the turning of the tides. If we can trust in this balance, we can face the end with a sense of absolute security, knowing that we are always held in the arms of an infinite, loving intelligence. As we continue to share these reflections, let the weight of the world drop away from your shoulders, and feel the lightness of your own spirit. You are not a body with a soul, but a soul that currently inhabits a body, and that soul is as radiant and as eternal as the stars. Every thought of kindness, every gesture of love, and every moment of presence is a gift you are giving to your future self. Trust in the wisdom of your heart, and know that you are always exactly where you need to be, moving toward a future that is as bright and as beautiful as you allow it to be. I am so grateful for the opportunity to sit here with you and talk about these things in such a gentle and open way. It is through this shared exploration that we find the courage to face our fears and the inspiration to live with greater purpose. Remember that you are never alone, for the love and the wisdom of the entire universe are always with you, guiding you every step of the way. May you find the peace that lies within you, and may it be your constant companion through all the changes of your life. Imagine the profound stillness of a library at midnight, where thousands of stories rest side by side, each containing a world of its own, yet all of them sharing the same quiet space. Our minds are very much like that, filled with the volumes of our memories, but there is a space between the words, a silence behind the stories, that remains untouched by the drama of our lives. When we approach the moment of our departure, the stories begin to fade, and the ink of our past achievements starts to pale, leaving us with that vast, silent space. If we have spent our lives only caring about the plot of our story, the ending might feel like the closing of a book we are not ready to finish. However, if we have learned to love the silence between the chapters, we find that the end is not a loss, but an expansion into the very peace that allowed the story to exist in the first place. This realization is a vital anchor for our near-death karma, for it shifts our focus from what we are losing to the immense, radiant emptiness that is our true home. There is an old tale about a flute maker who lived in a remote village, and he spent his entire life searching for the perfect piece of bamboo. He didn't look for the thickest or the most beautiful stalk, but for the one that was the most hollow, for he knew that the music did not come from the wood itself, but from the empty space within. He understood that the clearer the hollow, the more beautiful the song would be when the breath passed through it. We are like those flutes, and our spiritual journey is the process of hollowing out our ego, removing the blockages of pride and the knots of attachment. When the great breath of the universe passes through us at the moment of our transition, if we are hollow and clear, we will produce a melody of such haunting beauty that it will light up the path to the next world. Our near-death karma is that final, perfect note, a sound that is born from our willingness to be empty of our small selves so that we can be full of the infinite. I find it quite lovely to think about the way our lives are like the weaving of a vast, colorful carpet, where even the dark threads are necessary to bring out the brilliance of the gold and the blue. We often wish we could remove the shadows of our past, the moments of grief or the times we felt lost, but without those shadows, the pattern of our character would be flat and lifeless. In the final moments, as we look back at the carpet of our life, we see that every thread was placed with a purpose we might not have understood at the time. The near-death karma is the moment the carpet is finished and flipped over, revealing a masterpiece of intricate design that transcends our individual struggles. We can find peace in knowing that even our darkest days have contributed to the richness of the whole, creating a depth of soul that will serve as a sturdy foundation for whatever comes next. There was once a young girl who found a small, withered seed in the palm of her hand and, instead of throwing it away, she decided to keep it warm in her pocket and talk to it every day. She told the seed about the sun, the rain, and the beauty of the flowers she saw in the fields. Eventually, she planted the seed in a small pot of earth, and even though it took a long time to sprout, it eventually grew into a tree that bore the most fragrant fruit in the land. Our intentions are like that seed, and even the smallest thought of kindness, if held with warmth and consistency, can grow into something magnificent. When we reach the end of our journey, we find that our internal landscape is populated by the trees we have grown from the seeds of our thoughts. If we have nurtured seeds of love and forgiveness, we will find ourselves in a fertile orchard, but if we have ignored our seeds, the landscape may feel barren. The beauty of this law is that we are the ones who hold the seeds right now, in this very moment. It is often said that the mind is like a wild horse, powerful and fast, but capable of carrying us into danger if it is not gently trained. Our practice of mindfulness is the act of becoming a skilled rider, not by breaking the horse's spirit, but by building a relationship of trust and clarity. When we face the great transition, the horse of our mind may become startled by the unfamiliar sights and sounds of the threshold. If we have not trained it, it may gallop toward fear or confusion, but if we have spent our years building that bond of inner stability, we can guide the horse with the lightest touch of our intention. The near-death karma is the ultimate test of this relationship, a moment where the rider and the horse move as one, leaping over the final hurdle with a sense of exhilaration and grace. Consider the way a river does not need to know the map of the entire continent to find the ocean, it only needs to follow the pull of gravity and the opening of the land. We often exhaust ourselves trying to figure out exactly what happens after we die, mapping out the unknown with our fears and our theories. But the wisdom of the heart tells us that we don't need a map, we only need to follow the pull of our own inherent goodness. That pull is as natural as gravity, a cosmic attraction that draws the light within us toward the light of the source. If we stay fluid and open, like the water of the river, we will find that the path opens up before us exactly when it needs to. The transition is not a puzzle to be solved, but a flow to be joined, a movement of return that is as ancient as the stars. I remember a story about a master who was asked why he always seemed so happy, even when he had nothing but a simple robe and a bowl. He replied that he had found a secret spring of joy within his own heart, and that no matter where he went, he carried that spring with him. He explained that most people look for water in the dry desert of the world, but he had dug a well in the center of his own being. When he reached the end of his life, he was not afraid of being thirsty, for the spring was flowing more strongly than ever. We all have that secret spring within us, a source of peace and joy that is independent of our circumstances. Our task is to clear away the stones of worry and the sand of distraction so that the water can rise to the surface. By doing this, we ensure that our final moments are not a time of lack, but a time of overflowing abundance. The air we breathe is shared by every living being on this planet, a silent reminder that we are never truly separate from one another. This interconnectedness is a profound truth that can transform the way we view our own departure. When we realize that our life is part of a much larger, collective breath, the fear of our individual end begins to dissolve. We are like the leaves of a massive tree, and while the individual leaf may fall, the tree remains, and the life that was in the leaf returns to the roots to nourish the new growth of spring. If we can see ourselves as the tree rather than just the leaf, the transition of death becomes a beautiful redistribution of energy, a homecoming to the larger self that we have always been a part of. There is a quiet, steady power in the act of being honest with ourselves, even when it is uncomfortable. When we face our shadows and acknowledge our flaws with a heart of compassion, we are performing a deep cleaning of our soul. This honesty is like a bright light that dispels the ghosts of our past, leaving our mind clear and unburdened. A mind that is free from secrets and pretenses is a mind that is ready for the ultimate clarity of the near-death experience. In those final moments, there is no room for masks, and the more we have practiced being our true, authentic selves, the more peaceful the transition will be. We are stripping away the layers of the false self to reveal the diamond of our true nature, and death is simply the final polishing of that diamond. Imagine a bird that has lived its entire life in a forest, thinking that the trees and the bushes are the whole world. Then, one day, it flies above the canopy and sees the vast expanse of the ocean and the mountains in the distance. Its perspective is changed forever, and it realizes that its home is much larger than it ever imagined. Our life in the physical body is like living under the canopy, but the transition of death is the moment we fly above the trees. We see that the world we knew was just a small part of a much wider, more magnificent reality. This shift in perspective is not a loss of our home, but a discovery of our true vastness. If we have spent our lives looking at the sky through the branches, we will be ready to soar when the time comes. Every act of forgiveness is a gift we give to our future self, a way of clearing the path so that we do not stumble over the thorns of old grievances. When we hold on to anger, it is like carrying a hot coal in our own hand with the intention of throwing it at someone else, but we are the ones who get burned. By letting go of the coal, we allow our hand to heal and our heart to become light. This lightness is the greatest asset we can have at the moment of our transition, for it allows us to rise effortlessly toward the light. Our near-death karma is the sum total of all the times we chose to let go, to forgive, and to move forward with a heart of peace. It is a beautiful and liberating way to live, knowing that every moment of release is a preparation for the ultimate freedom. I find it very heartening to think about the way a single small light can be seen from a great distance in the darkness. Our individual efforts to be kind and wise may seem insignificant in a world that is so full of noise, but from the perspective of the Spirit, those efforts are like beacons of light. When we reach the threshold, it is these beacons that guide us, providing a sense of direction and safety in the unfamiliar space. We are all lighthouse keepers, and our only job is to keep our own light burning brightly through the storms and the quiet nights alike. By doing this, we are not only helping ourselves, but we are providing a sense of hope for everyone who sees our light. There was a story of a royal physician who was very famous for his skill, but he realized that the most important healing he ever performed was not with medicine, but with a gentle touch and a kind word. He found that the patients who felt loved and understood were the ones who faced their illness with the most courage. He began to treat every person as if they were his own family, and his fame grew even more, not for his cures, but for his heart. When it was his turn to face the end, he was surrounded by the love he had given away, and he found that this love was the only medicine he needed. His near-death karma was a profound sense of connection and peace, a natural result of a life spent in service to the well-being of others. We can look at our lives as a long, beautiful melody that is being played on the instrument of our consciousness. Sometimes the notes are high and joyful, and other times they are low and somber, but every note is necessary for the completeness of the song. Our practice is to play our instrument with as much sincerity and skill as we can, regardless of the tune we are given. When the song reaches its final chord, if we have played with our whole heart, the resonance will continue long after the sound has faded. That resonance is what carries us across the threshold, a beautiful vibration that connects the music of this life to the music of the next. There is a deep, abiding wisdom in the cycles of the moon, showing us that even when things seem to be disappearing, they are only preparing to return in a new form. The waning of the moon is not a tragedy, but a necessary part of the dance between light and shadow. Our own lives have their periods of waxing and waning, and the transition of death is simply the darkest point of the moon's cycle, the moment of complete stillness before the light begins to grow again. If we can accept this darkness as a time of rest and renewal, we will find that there is nothing to fear in the waning. We are part of an eternal cycle of renewal, and our essence is as constant as the moon itself, regardless of how much of it is visible at any given time. As we continue to walk this path of sharing and understanding, let the words settle into your mind like a soft falling snow, covering the landscape of your thoughts with a blanket of peace. You are a being of immense value, and your journey through this world is a sacred one. Every moment of presence, every thought of kindness, and every breath taken with awareness is a step toward a future that is bright and full of hope. Trust in the wisdom of your heart, and know that you are always exactly where you belong, moving toward a destiny of infinite light and joy. I am so grateful for the opportunity to share these reflections with you, and I hope they bring a sense of comfort and inspiration to your heart. Remember that you are never alone, for the love and wisdom of the entire universe are supporting you at every turn. May you find the peace that lies within you, and may it be your constant guide through all the changes and transitions of your life. You are a radiant being of light, and your story is a beautiful and eternal one, unfolding exactly as it should. Think of the way a single drop of rain can nourish a parched flower, bringing it back to life with its quiet, persistent moisture. Our small acts of kindness are like those raindrops, seemingly insignificant on their own, but capable of creating a garden of beauty when they are combined. When we reach the end of our journey, we find that the garden we have nourished is the very place we inhabit. If we have been generous with our raindrops, we will find ourselves in a lush, vibrant world, but if we have been stingy, the landscape may feel dry. The beauty is that we can choose to be a source of nourishment for ourselves and others every single day, creating a future that is as refreshing and as beautiful as a garden after a summer rain. Imagine a grand, old tree standing at the edge of a silver lake, its roots reaching deep into the hidden mysteries of the earth while its highest branches touch the infinite expanse of the stars. This tree does not worry about the day it will eventually fall, because it knows that its life is not contained within the bark or the leaves, but in the sap that flows silently through its veins, a life force that it shares with the entire forest. Our consciousness is much like that sap, a sacred current of awareness that has flowed through countless forms and will continue to flow long after this current vessel has returned to the soil. When we sit in the quietude of our own hearts, we can feel the pulse of this eternal stream, a steady vibration that whispers of a continuity that transcends the birth and death of the physical body. This deep, internal recognition is the most powerful ally we can have as we approach the final transition, for it reminds us that we are not the fading form, but the timeless essence that animates it. There is a story of an old mountain climber who spent his life ascending the highest peaks, not to conquer them, but to feel the thin, pure air that exists only at the summit. As he grew older and his legs could no longer carry him up the slopes, he found that he could still reach those heights by simply closing his eyes and remembering the feeling of the wind on his face and the vastness of the horizon. He realized that the mountain was not outside of him, but was a state of mind he could access whenever he chose to be still and elevated in his thoughts. In his final hours, he did not feel confined to his bed. He felt as though he was standing on the highest peak of all, looking out over a world that was bathed in the golden light of an eternal sunrise. His near-death karma was a state of absolute elevation, a mind that had learned to stay above the clouds of mundane worry, making his departure a final, effortless ascent into the light. We often think of our life as a series of events, but it is actually a series of echoes, where the sound we make in the present is the sound that will greet us in the future. If we speak with harshness, the echo that returns will be jagged and unsettling, but if we speak with the soft voice of compassion, the echo will be a soothing melody that comforts us when the world grows dark. This resonance is particularly vivid in the moments of the great transition, where the external noise of life fades away and we are left with the sounds of our own internal landscape. By choosing to live with a heart of harmony, we are composing a symphony that will play for us as we cross the threshold, a beautiful and familiar song that leads us toward a home of perfect peace. It is a wonderful thing to realize that we are both the composer and the listener of our own destiny, and that every note of kindness we strike today adds to the beauty of our final arrangement. Consider the way a master potter handles a piece of clay, with a touch that is both firm and incredibly gentle, knowing that the shape of the vessel is determined by the pressure of the hands. Our life is the clay, and our intentions are the hands that mold it into its final form. If we handle our experiences with a touch of greed or anger, the vessel will be brittle and prone to cracking, but if we handle them with the touch of wisdom and love, the vessel will be strong, elegant, and capable of holding the nectar of liberation. When the potters will finally stop spinning at the end of our journey, the vessel we have created is what we carry with us. A well-formed heart is a container of light, a sacred cup that remains whole and beautiful even as the physical world dissolves around it. There was a humble traveler in the time of the Buddha who carried nothing but a small, empty bowl and a heart full of curiosity. One day, he came across a village where the people were caught in a bitter dispute over a piece of land, their faces twisted with rage and their hearts heavy with resentment. Instead of joining the argument or taking a side, the traveler simply sat at the edge of the village and began to offer a silent prayer of peace for every person involved. He didn't ask for anything, he didn't try to teach them, he just radiated a sense of calm that was as steady as the morning sun. Slowly, one by one, the villagers felt their anger begin to melt in the presence of his quiet sincerity, and the dispute was resolved not with words, but with a shared feeling of relief. That traveler's life was a testament to the power of a peaceful presence, and when his own journey reached its end, he was met by a silence that was as warm and as welcoming as the peace he had shared. The mind is like a vast, fertile field, and every thought we hold is a seed that will eventually sprout and bear fruit. We might think that a single thought of impatience or a tiny seed of judgment doesn't matter, but in the garden of the soul, everything grows. If we want to inhabit a landscape of beauty and tranquility after we depart, we must be diligent gardeners now, choosing our seeds with the greatest of care. We can plant seeds of appreciation for the simple beauty of a falling leaf, seeds of forgiveness for those who have hurt us, and seeds of courage for the challenges we face. When the season of life changes and the harvest of our karma arrives, we will find ourselves surrounded by the flowers of our own making, a fragrant and colorful world that reflects the goodness of our own hearts. It is quite moving to think about the way a mother bird prepares her nest, lining it with the softest feathers and the gentlest moss to ensure the safety of her young. Our spiritual practice is the act of lining our own internal nest, creating a space of comfort and security that will hold us when we are at our most vulnerable. Every moment of mindfulness, every act of selfless service, and every breath taken with gratitude is a soft feather we are adding to the nest of our consciousness. When the time comes to leave the branch of this life and fly into the unknown, we will do so from a place of absolute safety, knowing that we have prepared ourselves with the utmost love and care. The transition of death is not a fall, but a taking of flight from a nest that has been perfectly prepared. I find so much peace in the understanding that we are part of a cosmic dance, a rhythmic movement of energy that has no beginning and no end. We are like the waves on the surface of the ocean, rising for a brief moment in the sunlight and then sinking back into the depths, only to rise again in a new form. The wave does not lose its identity when it merges with the sea, it simply realizes its true vastness. If we can identify with the ocean rather than just the individual wave, the fear of the shore disappears. We understand that our essence is the water itself, fluid, powerful, and eternal, and that every rise and fall is just a beautiful part of the dance. There was a story of a royal jeweler who was tasked with creating a crown for a king, but instead of focusing on the size of the gems, he focused on the clarity of each stone, spending years polishing them until they shone with a light that seemed to come from within. He realized that the true value of the crown was not in its weight, but in the purity of the light it reflected. Our lives are much like those gems, and our experiences are the tools that polish us. If we embrace our struggles with a heart of patience, we become more radiant, more transparent, and more capable of reflecting the light of the truth. When the crown of our life is finally completed at the moment of our departure, it will be the clarity of our spirit that determines its true worth, a brilliance that will light our way through any darkness. Imagine for a moment that your mind is like a clear, mountain stream, flowing over rocks and through meadows, always moving toward a larger body of water. The stream does not complain about the obstacles in its path, it simply flows around them, finding the easiest way forward with a sense of effortless grace. It is the nature of water to seek the lowest point, yet it is also the nature of water to reflect the highest sky. We can be like that stream, moving through our lives with a sense of fluidity and acceptance, allowing our reflections to be full of the light of the stars. When the stream finally reaches the ocean, there is no sound of a struggle, only a gentle merging of waters that have always been one. Every time we choose to be kind to ourselves, we are healing a tiny rift in the fabric of the universe. We often treat ourselves with a harshness we would never show to a friend, carrying the burden of our perceived failures as if they were heavy stones. But the wisdom of the heart tells us that we are worthy of love simply because we exist, a radiant part of the divine whole. If we can learn to hold our own fears and our own mistakes with a sense of gentle compassion, we are creating a near-death karma that is rooted in self-acceptance and peace. In the final moments, this internal kindness will be like a warm light, guiding us home to a place where we are fully known and perfectly loved. I often think about the way a single candle can illuminate a room that has been dark for centuries, and how this perfectly describes the power of a single moment of true awakening. No matter how many shadows we have carried or how many mistakes we have made, a moment of deep, sincere realization can transform the entire trajectory of our soul. This is the great hope of the spiritual path, that it is never too late to turn toward the light. Like a person who has been sleeping in a dark cave and finally walks out into the morning sun, our past disappears in the brilliance of our current awareness. The near-death karma is the ultimate opportunity for this turning, a moment of profound clarity where we can choose to leave the shadows behind and step into the infinite radiance of our true nature. There is a quiet, steady wisdom in the cycles of the seasons, showing us that death is never an end, but always a preparation for a new beginning. The winter is not a time of loss, but a time of gathering strength, a sacred pause where the seeds of the future are held in the warm embrace of the earth. Our departure from this life is much like the coming of winter, a time to withdraw our energy from the external world and return to the roots of our being. If we can accept this pause with a heart of trust, we will find that it is full of a hidden potential that will eventually burst forth into a new and beautiful spring. We are part of an eternal cycle of renewal, and our journey is a constant unfolding of life in all its many forms. Think of the way a master weaver uses every thread, even the ones that seem frayed or dull, to create a pattern of intricate beauty. Our lives are the fabric, and the experiences we have are the threads that make up the design. We might not understand why a particular thread of sorrow or a strand of difficulty is necessary, but from the perspective of the whole, every piece is essential. When the weaving is finished and the loom is stilled, we will see the magnificent pattern of our life, a story of courage, love, and growth that is far more beautiful than we could ever have imagined. The near-death karma is the final touch of the weaver's hand, a moment of completion that reveals the true integrity and beauty of the entire work. I find so much encouragement in the thought that our love for others is a vibration that continues to resonate long after we have gone. The kindness we have shown, the comfort we have offered, and the laughter we have shared are all stored in the great memory of the universe, forming a legacy of light that supports all of life. When we reach the end of our path, it is this reservoir of love that we draw upon, a source of strength that is as inexhaustible as the ocean. We are not just living for ourselves, we are living for the whole, and every bit of goodness we add to the world is a gift we are giving to our future self. Trust in the power of your own love, and know that it is the ultimate guide, the ultimate protector, and the ultimate destination. As we continue to walk this path of sharing and understanding, let the words settle into your spirit like the warmth of a gentle fire on a cool evening. You are a being of immense potential, and your journey through this world is a sacred and beautiful one. Every thought of peace, every gesture of kindness, and every breath taken with awareness is a step toward a future that is bright and full of infinite joy. Trust in the wisdom of your heart, and know that you are always exactly where you need to be, moving toward a destiny of absolute clarity and eternal peace. I am so grateful for the opportunity to share these reflections with you, and I hope they bring a sense of comfort and inspiration to your heart. Remember that you are never alone, for the love and wisdom of the entire universe are always with you, guiding you every step of the way. May you find the peace that lies within you, and may it be your constant companion through all the changes and transitions of your life. You are a radiant being of light, and your story is a beautiful and eternal one, unfolding exactly as it should in the grand and mysterious dance of existence. Imagine a vast, shimmering field of wild grass at dawn, where each blade is heavy with a single drop of dew, reflecting the first light of a rising sun. Each of those millions of drops is distinct, yet they all hold the same sun within them, and as the heat of the day increases, they do not disappear into nothingness, but simply transform into invisible mist to rejoin the great clouds above. Our lives are like those dew drops, brief and crystalline, catching the light of consciousness for a fleeting moment before we return to the source from which we came. When we understand this, the final transition is no longer a falling away, but an evaporation into a more expansive state of being, where the boundaries of the drop are released so that the essence of the water can be free. This realization is a cornerstone of a serene near-death karma, for it replaces the fear of vanishing with the quiet joy of returning home to a sky that has no limits and no walls. There is a beautiful account of a simple potter who lived in a quiet valley, and he spent his days shaping vessels from the clay of the earth, but his true passion was the fire of the kiln. He watched how the intense heat did not destroy the clay, but rather transformed it into something strong, resonant, and beautiful, something that could hold water without leaking. He realized that our challenges and the very process of aging are the fires of our own spiritual kiln, burning away the impurities of our ego and hardening our resolve to be kind and clear. In his final moments, as he felt the warmth of his life beginning to cool, he did not feel like a broken pot, he felt like the space inside the pot, which remains perfectly still and spacious regardless of what happens to the clay. His mind was centered on that internal space, a silent emptiness that was full of a peace that the world could neither give nor take away, making his departure as smooth as the surface of a finished vase. The quality of our attention is like a golden thread that we use to sew the days of our lives together, and in the silence of the final hour, we can feel the strength of the seams we have made. If we have sewn with the threads of distraction, of chasing every passing whim or harboring every small resentment, the garment of our consciousness may feel thin and easily torn. But if we have sewn with the threads of presence, of truly seeing the person in front of us or truly feeling the ground beneath our feet, we will find ourselves wrapped in a cloak of immense durability and warmth. This cloak is our protection as we move through the threshold, a tangible sense of our own integrity that keeps us steady when the familiar world begins to dissolve. Every time we bring our wandering mind back to the present moment with a smile, we are strengthening that thread, ensuring that our final transition is one of dignified composure and radiant clarity. Consider the way a master archer releases an arrow, not with a sense of aggressive force, but with a profound and quiet letting go, where the archer, the bow, and the target are all part of a single, fluid motion. Our life is the drawing of the bow, a long period of gathering energy and intention, and the moment of death is the release of the arrow. If our aim has been true, rooted in the desire to cause no harm and to be a light in the world, the arrow will find its way to the heart of the great peace without any effort at all. The struggle is not in the release, but in the tension we hold before it. By practicing the art of letting go in the small things, of releasing our need to be right or our need to be in control, we are training our hands for that final, sacred release. There was a traveler who walked through many lands carrying a heavy bag filled with stones, each stone representing a memory of a time they felt wronged or a moment of guilt they could not forget. One day, they met a sage who asked why they chose to carry such a weight when the path ahead was so steep and beautiful. The traveler replied that they feared they would lose their identity if they let the stones go. The sage laughed gently and pointed to a soaring eagle, asking if the eagle needed to carry stones to know it was an eagle. In that moment, The traveler dropped the bag and felt a lightness they had never known, realizing that their true self was the one who could fly, not the one who carried the weight. This is the essence of clearing our near-death karma. It is the brave decision to drop the heavy bags of our past so that our spirit can soar into the next horizon without being pulled back by the gravity of regret. Our minds are like a wide, open mirror that reflects everything that passes before it, yet the mirror itself is never changed by the images it holds. It reflects the storm without getting wet, and it reflects the fire without being burned. In the moments of our transition, many images may pass across the mirror of our mind, old memories, faces of friends, and even our deepest fears. If we can remember that we are the mirror and not the reflected images, we can watch the entire process with a sense of calm curiosity. This detachment is not a lack of feeling, but a depth of wisdom that knows the difference between the passing show and the eternal observer. When we rest in the nature of the mirror, the transition becomes a magnificent display of light and shadow, a final cinematic masterpiece that we watch with a heart that is already at rest. I find a profound sense of hope in the fact that even a single, genuine prayer for the well-being of all creatures can shift the entire atmosphere of our soul. It is like lighting a single candle in a dark cavern. The light may be small, but it changes the reality of the darkness instantly. When we cultivate a heart of universal compassion, we are not just helping others, we are creating a luminous environment for our own consciousness to inhabit. In the final seconds, as the physical world fades, this environment of love becomes our entire reality, a radiant field of energy that welcomes us with the familiarity of a long-lost home. We are the creators of our own internal weather, and a heart full of love ensures that the climate of our transition is one of warmth, light, and eternal spring. Imagine for a moment that your life is a long, winding river that has finally reached the edge of a great waterfall. From the perspective of the river, the fall looks like an ending, a chaotic descent into the mist. But from the perspective of the water, it is a moment of spectacular freedom, a chance to turn into 1,000 sparkling diamonds in the air before merging with the deep, quiet pool below. We are the water, and our transition is that magnificent fall, a brief moment of intense transformation where we realize that we have always been part of a much larger, more powerful flow. There is no need to fear the edge when you realize that you are the river itself, and that the pool below is just another way of being you. Every act of patience we show toward a difficult situation is like planting a tree that will provide shade for us when the sun of our life is at its hottest. We often think of patience as a passive waiting, but it is actually an active cultivation of inner strength, a refusal to be ruffled by the temporary storms of the world. As we grow older and the storms of the body increase, this internal shade becomes a place of refuge, a cool and quiet sanctuary where we can rest in our own peace. A mind that is habituated to patience is a mind that can face the great transition with a steady gaze, knowing that every discomfort is just another passing breeze that cannot touch the deep roots of our tranquility. There is a subtle and beautiful music that plays in the silence between our thoughts, a melody of pure awareness that has been with us since the day we were born. Most of the time, the noise of our worries and our ambitions drowns out this music, but as we approach the end, the noise begins to subside, and the melody becomes clearer and more resonant. It is a song of belonging, a reminder that we are a cherished part of a vast and loving universe. If we take the time to listen to this silence now, to sit quietly with ourselves and find a melody in the stillness, we will recognize it as the voice of a dear friend when it calls us home. Our transition is not a journey into a strange land, but a following of the music we have always loved. I often think about the way a single seed contains the potential for an entire forest, and how our smallest intentions hold the blueprints for our future worlds. If we intend to be a source of healing, even in our own quiet way, we are sowing seeds of paradise in the fertile soil of our karma. When we reach the threshold, we find that we are walking into the very forest we have planted, a place of beauty, safety, and infinite growth. This is the profound mercy of the law of cause and effect. It gives us the tools to build our own heaven, one thought of kindness at a time. We are the architects, the gardeners, and the travelers of our own destiny, and the masterpiece is being created right here, in the simple choice to be kind. Consider the way a candle flame dances in the wind, flickering and leaning, yet always pointing upward toward the sky. Our spirit is that flame, and the wind is the uncertainty and change of our physical existence. We may flicker, and we may feel as though we are about to be extinguished, but the essence of the flame is always reaching for the light. In the final transition, the wind stops, and the flame becomes a steady, unmoving pillar of light, merging with the infinite radiance that fills the universe. By keeping our flame pointed toward the truth now, by focusing on what is eternal rather than what is temporary, we ensure that our final moment is a return to the great light, a homecoming that is as natural as the sunrise. There was a story of a royal weaver who was asked to create a robe for the king that was made of nothing but the light of the moon. The weaver spent many nights sitting in the moonlight, not trying to catch the light with his hands, but simply allowing it to soak into the silk of his own mind. When the king asked to see the robe, the weaver simply stepped into the light and showed the king that his heart had become so bright it illuminated the entire palace. Our lives are the silk, and the light of the moon is the wisdom of the teachings. If we allow that wisdom to soak into our being, we do not need to seek for a favorable future, for we will have become the light itself. Every time we choose to forgive ourselves for our past mistakes, we are untying a knot that would otherwise pull on us at the moment of our departure. We often carry these knots of guilt for years, unaware of how much energy they take to maintain. But a single moment of sincere self-compassion can dissolve the knot instantly, leaving the thread of our life smooth and free. A mind that is free of knots is a mind that can move through the transition with the speed and grace of a bird in flight. It is a beautiful gift to give to yourself, the gift of a heart that is unburdened and at peace with its own history. I find so much comfort in the realization that the universe is not a place of judgment, but a place of profound learning and evolution. Our mistakes are not stains on our soul, but lessons that help us to grow toward the light. When we look back on our journey from the perspective of the threshold, we see that every experience was a necessary step in our awakening. This understanding allows us to face the end with a heart of gratitude rather than one of fear, recognizing that we have fulfilled our purpose simply by being here and learning to love. The transition is the graduation ceremony of the soul, a joyful celebration of a life lived with courage and sincerity. As we continue to flow through this conversation, let the feeling of peace expand within you like the ripples on a quiet pond. You are a being of infinite worth, a unique expression of the divine intelligence that animates all of life. Your journey is a sacred dance, and every step is guided by a love that is beyond measure. Trust in the wisdom of your own heart, and know that the transition you are preparing for is just a beautiful doorway into a wider, more radiant reality. You are safe, you are loved, and you are eternal. I am so grateful for the opportunity to share these deep reflections with you, and I hope they bring a sense of comfort and inspiration to your spirit. Remember that the light you seek is already within you, shining brightly behind the clouds of your thoughts. Take the time to sit in that light every day, to feel its warmth and its peace, and you will find that you have nothing to fear from any change or any ending. You are a radiant being of light, and your story is a magnificent and eternal one, unfolding exactly as it should in the heart of the great mystery. Consider the way a deep, resonant bell continues to hum long after the initial strike has passed, a lingering vibration that fills the air with a sense of hidden presence. Our lives are that striking of the bell, and the near-death karma is the purity of the resonance that follows us into the silence of the great beyond. If the bell of our heart is cracked by the weight of hidden malice or the coldness of indifference, the sound will be dull and fleeting, but if it is forged in the fires of sincere practice and tempered with the water of kindness, the echo will be a golden thread of sound that guides us home. This final vibration is not something we can manufacture at the last second, it is the natural consequence of every honest word and every selfless thought we have ever had. It is a comforting thought that we are constantly tuning our own instrument, making sure that when the time comes for the final note, it is one of such clarity and depth that it harmonizes perfectly with the silent music of the spheres. There is a story of an old astronomer who spent every night of his life gazing at the stars, not to name them or to own them, but simply to lose himself in their ancient, unwavering light. When his eyes grew dim and he could no longer see the constellations through his telescope, he found that he had memorized the map of the heavens so perfectly that he could see the entire galaxy revolving within his own mind. In his final hours, he did not feel the darkness of the room or the weakness of his body, he felt as though he was floating among the stars he had loved so much. His near-death karma was a state of cosmic belonging, a mind that had expanded to include the infinite, making his transition feel like a star simply fading into the morning light of a new and brighter day. We too can spend our lives looking at the stars of our highest values, so that when the world of the senses fades, we find ourselves in a landscape of light that we already know by heart. The mind is like a vast, silent ocean, and our thoughts are merely the whitecaps that dance on the surface for a moment before dissolving back into the deep. Most of us spend our lives preoccupied with the waves, fearing the height of the crests and mourning the depth of the troughs, but the secret of a peaceful transition is to learn to be the depths. At the moment of the great change, the waves on the surface will naturally settle, and if we have found our home in the stillness of the deep water, we will not be disturbed. This depth is where our true strength lies, a reservoir of calm that is unaffected by the storms of the world or the dissolution of the form. By practicing a few moments of absolute stillness every day, we are diving into that deep water, familiarizing ourselves with the peace that will be our ultimate sanctuary when the surface of our life becomes still. There was a humble woodcarver who lived in a village at the base of a great mountain, and he was known for creating small, wooden birds that looked as though they were just about to take flight. When asked how he made them look so alive, he said that he did not carve the bird, he simply removed the wood that was hiding the bird within the block. He saw his own life in the same way, as a process of chipping away the layers of ego, fear, and attachment to reveal the radiant spirit that was already there. When he reached the end of his path, there was very little of his small self left to take away, for he had already revealed the beauty of his true nature through a lifetime of patient work. His near-death karma was a state of perfect readiness, a spirit that was already poised for flight, needing only the final touch of the transition to release it into the sky. Every time we choose to be honest in a world that often favors convenience, we are building a foundation of diamond-like integrity that will not shatter when the physical body fails. Honesty is not just about telling the truth to others, it is about being radically truthful with ourselves, acknowledging our deepest intentions and aligning them with the laws of kindness. This inner transparency is like a clear window that allows the light of the Spirit to shine through without distortion. In the final moments, this light is what we will follow, a beam of pure awareness that pierces through the shadows of confusion and leads us directly to the heart of the truth. We are the keepers of our own clarity, and every act of integrity is a polishing of the glass, ensuring that our final vision is one of absolute beauty and profound peace. Imagine for a moment that your life is a long, beautiful letter that you have been writing to the universe, and the near-death karma is the final signature that you place at the bottom of the page. If the letter is filled with words of appreciation, stories of connection, and expressions of gratitude, the signature will be a joyful flourish, a mark of a life well lived and a message well delivered. But even if there have been many crossings out and many stains of ink, the final lines can still be written with a steady hand and a heart of peace. The universe is a compassionate reader, more interested in the sincerity of our message than the perfection of our script. By focusing on the love we have shared and the wisdom we have gained, we are ensuring that our final signature is a testament to the light within us, a beautiful conclusion to a sacred and eternal story. There is a quiet, profound power in the act of being present for others, of offering our full attention as a gift of love without expecting anything in return. This quality of presence is the most refined form of karma, a vibration of pure being that transcends the limits of time and space. When we sit with a friend who is suffering, or when we listen with our whole heart to the quiet whispers of the night, we are cultivating a state of awareness that is as vast as the sky. In the moments of our own transition, this vastness is what will hold us, a feeling of absolute safety and connection that reminds us we have never been alone. We are part of a great, interconnected web of life, and our presence is a thread of light that strengthens the whole, creating a legacy of peace that continues to shine long after we have moved on. Consider the way a single drop of sandalwood oil can scent an entire room for days, and how this describes the lasting impact of a single, selfless act of compassion. Our lives are filled with opportunities to release the fragrance of our own goodness, to be a source of comfort and beauty in a world that can sometimes be harsh. This fragrance is what we carry with us into the next realm, a subtle aroma of the soul that draws us toward environments of similar sweetness. We are the creators of our own internal atmosphere, and by choosing to live with a heart of kindness, we are ensuring that our final transition is like stepping into a garden in full bloom at dawn. The scent of our own virtue will be the first thing to greet us, a familiar and welcoming reminder of the beauty we have nurtured within ourselves. I find so much peace in the understanding that the transition of death is not a departure from life, but a deeper immersion into it. We are like the stars that are always in the sky, even when the brightness of the sun makes them invisible to our eyes. When the sun of our physical existence sets, the infinite stars of our spiritual reality become visible once more, revealing a universe of such depth and majesty that our earthly worries seem like dust in the wind. We are not small, separate beings struggling to survive, but radiant expressions of an eternal light that can never be diminished or destroyed. By aligning ourselves with this truth now, by living with an awareness of our own infinite nature, we are preparing for a homecoming that is as natural and as joyful as a bird returning to its nest at twilight. Every breath we take is a sacred exchange with the world around us, a constant cycle of giving and receiving that sustains the very fabric of our being. If we can learn to breathe with gratitude, realizing that each inhale is a gift and each exhale is a release, we are practicing the ultimate art of living and dying. This rhythmic flow is the heartbeat of the universe, and when we align ourselves with it, we find a sense of ease that transcends all circumstances. In the final moments, as the breath becomes quiet and the physical world recedes, we will find that we are not losing our breath, but simply merging it with the great, eternal breath of all that is. There is no struggle in this merging, only a profound sense of relief and a return to the source of all life. There was a story of a royal weaver who was asked by the king to create a garment that was so light it could pass through the eye of a needle. The weaver spent years practicing the art of spinning threads from the morning mist and weaving them with the rays of the sun. When the garment was finished, it was so ethereal that it seemed to be made of nothing but light and air. Our near-death karma is that garment, a cloak of pure awareness that we have woven from the fine threads of our own spiritual practice. If we have lived with a sense of lightness and grace, we will find that we can pass through the narrow gateway of death without any resistance at all. We will move into the next world as easily as a breath of wind, free from the weight of the past and ready for the infinite possibilities of the future. I see so much beauty in the way we all carry a hidden flame within us, a spark of the divine that is always reaching upward, always seeking the light. Even in our darkest moments, that flame continues to burn, a steady and silent reminder of our true identity. Our task is to feed that flame with the fuel of our kindness, to protect it from the winds of our fear, and to let it shine brightly through the windows of our eyes. When the time comes for the final transition, that flame will not go out, it will simply expand until it becomes the sun, illuminating a world that is beyond anything we can imagine. We are the guardians of the light, and our journey is a constant unfolding of that radiance, a movement toward a state of being that is defined by nothing but peace and love. As we reach the end of this shared reflection, let the silence of the room wrap around you like a warm embrace, and feel the quiet strength that comes from knowing the truth of your own being. You are a traveler on a magnificent and sacred journey, and every step you have taken has been a part of your awakening. Trust in the wisdom of your heart, and know that the transition you are preparing for is just a beautiful doorway into a wider, more radiant reality. There is nothing to fear, for you are always held in the arms of an infinite, loving intelligence that knows your name and loves you beyond measure. You are safe, you are loved, and you are eternal, a part of the grand and beautiful dance of life that has no beginning and no end. Think of the way a single drop of rain eventually finds its way back to the ocean, no matter how many mountains it has to climb or how many valleys it has to cross. It may evaporate and become a cloud, it may freeze and become a snowflake, it may join a rushing river or a quiet stream, but its destiny is always the same. We are those drops of rain, and our journey through this life is just one part of our return to the vast, infinite ocean of consciousness. The near-death karma is the moment we feel the first salty spray of the sea on our face, a sign that our journey is nearly complete and that the great homecoming is at hand. We can move toward that ocean with a heart of joy, knowing that we are not losing ourselves, but finally finding the fullness of what we have always been. I am so grateful for this time we have shared, for the words we have woven together, and for the peace that has filled our conversation. May you carry the essence of these thoughts with you as you move through your days, letting them be a source of comfort and inspiration whenever you need it. You are a radiant being of light, and your story is a beautiful and eternal one, unfolding exactly as it should in the heart of the great mystery. Walk with confidence, live with love, and know that the light you seek is already within you, shining brightly for all the world to see. There is a peace that surpasses all understanding waiting for you at the end of the road, a peace that is your birthright and your ultimate destination, and until we meet again in that light, may your heart be full and your spirit be free.